What's up, everyone, and welcome to a slightly delayed Cybersecurity Weekly, where we review the security events that happened in the last week. Slightly delayed because I came down with COVID and was laid up in bed for a few days. As always, I have broken the stories down in the timeline so you can jump around as you see fit. If you find my work valuable, of course, I ask you to hit the like button, and if you have not already, subscribe to my channel.
Oh, drat these computers. They're so naughty and so complex. I could pinch them.
We start off today with phishing. Threat intelligence firm Cybel has observed a malware as a service named Matanbuchus, no association to Urtukus, involved in mole spam attacks dropping Cobalt Strike beacons. Matanbuchus is a malware loader that was first appeared on the threat landscape in February 2021 when it was offered for rent on Russian-speaking cybercrime forums at a price of $2,500. Cybel researchers started their investigation after coming across a Twitter post from a researcher warning of the loader spreading through spam campaigns. Matanbuchus could be used in a multi-stage attack chain due to its capability to download and execute second-stage executables from command and control servers. The Matanbuchus attack chain starts through mole spam messages using a zip attachment containing an HTML file. Once the HTML file is executed, it decodes the base64 content embedded in the file and drops a zip file in the downloaded folder, or the downloads folder. However, there is a code present in the HTML file which shows that the zip file is in the OneDrive location. The zip file contains an MSI installer file. After extraction, it shows a fake error message upon the execution of the MSI file, reads the analysis published by Cybel. The MSI installer displays a fake error message upon execution while installing a DLL file called main.dll in the background. The main DLL acts as a loader and downloads the actual Matanbuchus DLL from this command and control server. The DLL also establishes persistence by means of a scheduled task. Threat actors use various techniques to deploy their malicious payloads into the victim's system. In this case, we observe the TAs used, or the threat actors, used Matanbuchus malware loader to deliver Cobalt Strike beacons, concludes Cybel. The report also includes minor attack techniques and indicators of compromise. We now move on to patches. CODESYS has released security patches to fix 11 vulnerabilities in its ICS Automation Software. CODESYS is a development environment for programming controller applications according to the International Industrial Standard IEC 61131-3. The main product of the software suite is the CODESYS Development System and IEC 61131-3 tool. An attacker could exploit the flaw to trigger a denial of service condition, disclose information, execute arbitrary code, and conduct other malicious activities. Two of these vulnerabilities tracked to CVE 2022-31805 and CVE 2022-31806 have been rated critical with CVSS scores of 9.8, 7 as high risk, and 2 as medium risk. The vulnerabilities were discovered as part of an in-depth research on CODESYS version 2 runtime and PLCs using this kernel ABBAC500 PLCs. These vulnerabilities are simple to exploit, and they can be successfully exploited to cause consequences such as sensitive information leakage, PLCs entering a severe fault state, and arbitrary code execution. In combination with industrial scenarios on field, these vulnerabilities could expose industrial production to stagnation, equipment damage, etc. Reads the advisory published by Chinese security firm NS Focus. CODESYS has published an official security advisory that has fixed the mentioned vulnerabilities. However, many vendors who use CODESYS version 2 runtime have not yet updated in time, in which case factories using these affected products are still in serious risk or at serious risk. The Chinese researchers who discovered the vulnerabilities pointed out that CODESYS version 2 runtime is used by many manufacturers, and most of these manufacturers still use outdated versions. The vulnerabilities affect a large number of manufacturers using a version of CODESYS version 2 runtime older than version 2.4.7.57. The products described below may be affected by the vulnerabilities and require security enhancements in case you are using any of these. ABB AC500 controller, WAGO 750 PFC 200 controller, Festo FEC and ECCC controller, Eaton XVN XV controller, Bosch Rexworth Indramotion or Indralogic controller, XOR Top 400 500 600 controllers, Kineko F122 CAN bus controllers, Kaba CPXX controllers, and Bachmann M1 controller. The list of protection and recommendations recommended by the researchers include locate the affected products behind the security protection devices and perform a defense in-depth strategy for network security, try using secure VPN networks when remote access is required, and perform adequate access control and auditing. Pay attention to vendor security updates and upgrade the affected products after testing to keep them secure from threats. Minimize the exposure of private communications ports of the affected devices and selectively close the affected ports such as 1200, 1201, 2455. According to service scenarios, recommending vendors who use CODESYS version 2 runtime to investigate themselves in time and actively to fix and release the patched version of firmware. Hey, we now move on to attacks, vulnerabilities, and updates. Last week, threat actors have stolen $100 million in cryptocurrency from the blockchain company Harmony. The company reported the incident to authorities. The FBI is investigating the cyber heist with the help of several cybersecurity firms. Harmony's Horizon Bridge allows users to transfer their crypto assets from one blockchain to another. The company immediately halted the bridge to prevent further transactions and notified other exchanges. The company also offered a $1 million bounty in exchange for the return of the funds. Ooh, 1% to give back all the money? Yeah, that's really going to work. The incident response team announced that it has found no evidence of any breaches of the company's smart contract codes or vulnerabilities on the Horizon platform. Harmony pointed out that the consensus layer of the Harmony blockchain remains secure. Our incident response team has discovered evidence that private keys were compromised, leading to the breach of the Horizon Bridge. Funds were stolen on the Ethereum side of the bridge. The private keys were encrypted and stored by Harmony, with the keys doubly encrypted via passphrase and a key management service, and no single machine had access to multiple plaintext keys, states the update published by the company. Well, that's actually pretty secure. But the attacker was able to access and decrypt a number of these keys, including those used to sign the unauthorized transactions and take assets in the form of BUSD, USDC, Ethereum, and WBTC. All assets were then swapped to Ethereum and currently remain on the hacker's account on the Ethereum network. No steps have currently been taken by the hacker to anonymize ownership of these assets. The blockchain security firm Certic published a detailed analysis of the incident. It confirmed that the threat actors were able to access the owners of Horizon's multi-sig wallets, then drain the funds from Harmony. Unfortunately, attacks against blockchain bridges are becoming frequent. Really, you think? The list of hacked platforms includes Ronin Bridge back in March and Wormhole. The government computer emergency response team of the Ukraine is warning of a malware campaign targeting Ukrainian telecommunications operators with the DarkCrystal RAT. Remember that movie? The mall spam messages have the topic free primary legal aid. Use a password-protected attachment algorithm actions of members of the family of a missing serviceman legalaid.rar. DarkCrystal, that was an amazing movie back in the 80s. The RAR archive analyzed by the Ukrainian CERT UA contains the document algorithm legalaid.xlsm. Upon opening the document and enabling the macro, a PowerShell command line will be executed. The script will download and run the .NET bootloader mscommondll.exe, which in turn will download and run the malware DarkCrystal RAT. Based on the email addresses of email recipients as well as the domain management DarkCrystal RAT, we assume that the attack is aimed at operators and telecommunications providers of the Ukraine. During the previous attack on June 10th, 2022, media organizations of the Ukraine were the objects of interest of malefactors, states the alert published by CERT UA. The Khuzestan Steel Company is one of the major steel companies owned by the Iranian government. The company was forced to halt production due to a cyber attack. According to the Associated Press, Khuzestan Steel Company has a monopoly on steel production in Iran, along with two other major state-owned firms. The website of the company is still down at the time of the original writing of the article. The company was forced to halt production to avoid damage to the production lines and impact on the supply chains it belongs to. The Iranian news channel Jamaran reported that the attack failed because the time of the attack and electricity outage had interrupted the operations at the plant. Fortunately, with time and awareness, the attack was unsuccessful, reported the Iranian Mer news agency, quoting Ibrahimi. Local authorities expect the operation will be restored by the end of Monday. Threat actors likely aimed at impacting the steel industry. Iran is one of the major producers of steel in the Middle East and among the top 10 in the world, according to the World Steel Association. The government of Tehran, nor the Khuzestan Steel Company, has attributed that attack to a specific threat actor. In the last couple of years, Iranian infrastructure were hit by several cyber attacks. In October 2021, the cyber attack disrupted the gas stations from the gas station National Iranian Oil Products Distribution Company across Iran. The attack also defaced the screens at the gas pumps and gas price billboards. In July, the Iranian railroad station was hit by a cyber attack. Threat actors published fake messages about delays or cancellations of the trains on display boards at stations across the country, the Fars news agency reported. The government of Lithuania announced on Monday that it had been hit by an intense cyber attack, likely launched from Moscow, days after the Russian government protested restrictions Vilnius imposed on the rail transit of certain goods of Kaliningrad. You notice a theme here? We're talking more about countries being attacked, not just companies, but countries being attacked. Analysts believe the massive attack could be retaliation against Vilnius, which applied the sanctions decided by the European Union. The Lithuanian Ministry of Defense announced that Lithuanian state institutions and companies are under a massive DDoS attack. The authorities believe that the attacks will continue in the coming days and will be aimed at organizations in transport, energy, and financial sectors. Prime Minister Ingrida Simoniti declared that such kind of attacks had become frequent since Russia's invasion of the Ukraine. Last week, Security Affairs first reported that Lithuania was under cyber attack after the ban on Russian railway goods. Cyber Spetsnaz is targeting Lithuanian government resources and critical infrastructure. The recent ban on Russian railway goods has caused a new spike of hacktivist activity on the dark web. Last week, the group has announced multiple targets for coordinated DDoS attacks. The resources to be attacked are distributed between so-called units, who are based on members and volunteers who joined previous and current campaigns. The escalation was caused by Vilnius's refusal to allow steel and iron ore to cross the Russian exclave of Kaliningrad. According to the BBC and other news agencies, prior to this activity, Russia warned Lithuania of the consequences of rail transit blockades, but didn't specify how exactly they will be conducted. According to reports from Los Angeles-based cybersecurity company ReSecurity, who are currently protecting Fortune 500 companies, the observed activity is expected considering war conflicts and follows today's geopolitical agenda. Multiple resources interviewed by Security Affairs agreed that Cyber Spetsnaz began gaining more traction and involved multiple credible actors with DDoS capabilities. The group is leveraging relatively cost-effective means and methods of DDoS. By doing so, they generate significant DDoS power by attacking compromised web resources, websites, IoT devices, and botnet networks belonging to other independent actors who agreed to join the campaign. The real impact of such a campaign may be different from what has been claimed in practice. The main goal is to generate short-term outages or temporary unavailability of the resource to generate certain media narratives. Currently, targets for attacks include logistics companies like Adram, Talgai, transport infrastructure like Transimexa, chemicals, major financial institutions, ISPs, airports, energy companies, major media outlets, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Justice, etc. Security expert Guido Vranken discovered a remote memory corruption vulnerability in the recently released OpenSSL version 3.0.4. The library was released on June 21st, 2022, and affects x64 systems with the AVX-512 instruction set. OpenSSL version 3.0.4, released on June 21st, 2022, is susceptible to remote memory corruption, which can be triggered trivially by an attacker. Boring SSL, LibreSSL, and OpenSSL 1.1.1 branch are not affected. Furthermore, only x64 systems with AVX-512 support are affected. The bug is fixed in the repository, but a new release is still pending, reads the post published by Vranken. The issue can be easily exploited by threat actors, and it will be addressed with the next release. Google researcher David Benjamin, that has analyzed the vulnerability, argues that the bug does not constitute a security risk. Benjamin also found an apparent bug in the paper by Shea Guarino, upon which the RSAS code is based. The LockBit ransomware operation has released LockBit 3.0, which has important novelties such as a bug bounty program, Zcash payment, and new extortion tactics. The gang has been active since at least 2019, and today is one of the most active ransomware gangs. The new version 3.0 of ransomware was already used in recent attacks. The introduction of the bug bounty program made the headlines. It's the first ransomware gang asking cybersecurity experts to submit bugs in their malware to improve it. The gang announced it is offering rewards ranging from $1,000 to $1 million. A ransomware gang has a bug bounty program to improve their own ransomware. We invite all security researchers, ethical and unethical hackers on the planet to participate in our bug bounty program. The amount of remuneration varies from $1,000 to $1 million, reads the announcement of the bug bounty program made by the gang. The ransomware gang will also reward brilliant ideas to improve its operations. Oh, really? The $1 million rewards will be paid to those experts that will identify the affiliate manager LockBit SUP. Another novelty is represented by the fact that the gang now accepts Zcash for payments. Oh, wow. Along with Monero and Bitcoin to protect their anonymity. The LockBit 3.0 operation is also using a new extortion model that allows threat actors to buy data stolen from the victims during the attacks. The source code of the showcase site suggests the adoption of new modes of monetization of cyber attacks carried out with the LockBit 3.0 ransomware. Thus, everything seems ready so that it will soon become possible to pay the franchise to download stolen data, including in the form of a single BitTorrent file, but also to buy more time before disclosing the data. Ooh, you get to buy more time. Or to request the destruction of the stolen data, reads the post published by Lee Maggot. What give cyber criminals an additional chance to get paid by their victims when they do not want the decryption tool? This kind of request is not uncommon during negotiations. The experts noticed a JavaScript file that allows users to purchase data leaked on the site and download it also through a torrent. Researchers from Black Lotus Labs, the threat intelligence division of Lumen Technologies, have discovered a new remote access Trojan called ZuoRAT, which targets small office, home office devices of remote workers during COVID-19 pandemic. Sorry, that's the COVID coming up. The malware was designed to target routers from ASUS, Cisco, Draytech, and Netgear. The experts believe that attacks are part of a sophisticated campaign that went undetected for nearly 2 years. The level of complexity of the tactics, techniques, and procedures observed by the researchers lead them into believing that the campaign is carried out by a nation-state actor. We identified a multi-stage remote access Trojan developed by 4 SOHO devices that grants the attacker the ability to pivot into the local network and gain access to additional systems on the land by hijacking network communications to maintain an undetected foothold, reads the report published by Lumen. The attack chain starts by scanning for devices vulnerable to known issues to load the remote access tool and gain a foothold in the target network. Then the malicious code drops a shellcode loader that is used to drop Cobalt Strike beacons and custom backdoors such as CBeacon and GoBeacon. The ZuoRAT allows operators to perform in-depth reconnaissance of target networks, traffic collection, and network communication hijacking. The RAT is composed of 2 components. The first one included functions that would auto-run upon execution of the file, and the 1 included functions that were embedded into the file but were not explicitly called. Experts believe these functions were implemented to be called by additional commands. Experts speculate ZuoRAT is based on the Mirai malware, but it is a heavily modified version. The first component includes multiple functions that allow operators to collect network traffic on UDP, DNS, and some TCP connections. A function was then initialized to collect TCP connections over the following specified ports: 20 and 21 associated with FTP connection, 80, 80, 80, 443, and 8443 associated with web-based activity. This could allow the threat actor to obtain any credential passed in the clear and gain insight into the browsing activity performed by the end user behind the compromised router, continues the report. ZuoRAT is also able to hijack DNS and HTTPS requests and redirect the victims to malicious domains. The malware hides its traffic through obfuscation, multi-stage command and control infrastructure. Threat actors also deliver the first stage payload from a dedicated virtual private server that hosted benign content. Then they rely on routers as proxy command and control centers, servers that hid in plain sight through router-to-router communication to avoid detection. The operators also rotated proxy routers periodically to fly under the radar. The experts did not attribute the campaign to a specific threat actor, but the investigation suggested the involvement of the Chinese threat actors. The capabilities demonstrated in this campaign, gaining access to SOHO devices of different makers and models, collecting host and LAN information to inform targeted sampling, and hijacking network communications to gain potential persistent access to in-LAN devices, and intentionally stealth command and control infrastructure, leveraging multi-stage siloed router-to-router communications, points to a highly sophisticated actor, the researchers concluded. The RansomHouse extortion gang claims to have stolen 450 gigabytes of data from the chipmaker giant AMD in 2021 and threatens to leak it or sell it if the company will not pay the ransom. The company has been added this week to the gang's dark web leak site. According to Bleeping Computer, a RansomHouse partner has breached the network of AMD a year ago, but the leaked site reports January 5th, 2022 as the date of the compromise. RansomHouse launched its operation in December 2021. Unlike other extortion groups, the gang doesn't encrypt data, but focuses on data theft to speed up its activity. This means that threat actors did not infect AMD systems, but once obtained access to its networks, they had stolen internal data. One of the files, All Computer CSV, contains a list of over 77,000 machines hosted on AMD's internal network. Another leaked file, Sample Passwords, includes a list of weak AMD user credentials such as password with an @ and a 0, and AMD, exclamation 123, or exclamation 23. AMD is currently investigating the alleged security breach. Of course they are. The RansomHouse leak site includes the name of 5 organizations hit by the group: ShopRite Holdings Limited, AHS Aviation Holding Services GmbH, Delner Couples AB, Jefferson Credit Union, Saskatchewan Liquor and Gaming Authority. Now, you might remember that in 2020, AMD was also hacked with secret information stolen and held ransom. SonarSource researchers have discovered a new vulnerability in RAR Labs' UnRAR utility tracked to CV 2022-30333 that can be exploited by remote attackers to execute arbitrary code on a system that relies on the binary, like Zimbra webmail servers. Zimbra is an enterprise-ready email solution used by over 200,000 businesses, governments, and financial institutions. We discovered a 0-day vulnerability in the UnRAR utility, a third-party tool used in Zimbra. The vulnerability ultimately allows a remote attacker to execute arbitrary code on a vulnerable Zimbra instance without requiring any prior authentication or knowledge about it, reads the post published by SonarSource researchers. An attacker is able to create files outside of the target extraction directory when an application or victim user extracts an untrusted archive. If they can write to a known location, they are likely to be able to leverage it in a way leading to the execution of arbitrary commands on the system. The CV 2022-30333 flaw in the UnRAR binary developed by RARLab is a file write vulnerability that could be exploited by tricking victims into extracting maliciously crafted RAR archives. The experts pointed out that in the case of Zimbra, threat actors could exploit this issue to access every mail sent and received on a compromised email server. An attacker can fully compromise the server and install a backdoor and use the compromised machine as a pivot to target other systems within the organization. The only requirement for this attack is that UnRAR is installed on a server, which is expected as it is required for RAR archive virus scanning and spam checking, continues the report. The issue stems from a symbolic link attack. Threat actors could create a RAR archive containing a symlink that contains forward and backslashes to bypass current checks and extract it outside of the target extraction directory. The flaw resides in the function that converts backslashes to forward slashes to RAR archives created on Windows to be extracted on Unix systems. The attacker can exploit this flaw to write arbitrary files anywhere on the target file system, including writing a JSP shell into the web directory shell in Zimbra's web directory. An attacker can achieve RCE impact via various means. Integer cybersecurity researchers have detailed a new information stealing malware dubbed YT Stealer that was developed to steal authentication cookies from YouTube content creators. The malware is highly likely available as a service on the dark web. Upon executing the malware, it performs some environment checks to avoid being executed in a sandbox. YT Stealer borrows the code that performs the checks comes from an open source project hosted on GitHub called Shachal. If YT Stealer finds authentication cookies for YouTube, it does something interesting, though. To validate the cookies and to grab more information about the YouTube user account, the malware starts one of the installer web browsers on the infected machine in headless mode and adds the cookie to its cookie store, reads the post published by Integer. By starting the web browser in headless mode, the malware can operate the browser as if the threat actor sat down on the computer without the current user noticing anything. To control the browser, the malware uses a library called ROD. ROD provides a high-level interface and to control browsers over the DevTools protocol and markets itself as a tool for web automation and scraping. The YT stealer uses the web browser to navigate to YouTube Studios page, which is used by content creators to manage their content. Once access is gained to the YouTube Studio, the malware grabs information about the user's channels, including the channel name, number of subscribers, their creation date, its verification status, and if it is monetized. The malware encrypts all the data with a key that is unique for each sample and sends it along with the sample identifier to the command and control server located on the domain name. This domain was registered on December 12, 2021. The domain name links it to an American corporation with the name of UBot Solutions LLC, which claims to provide unique solutions for getting and monetizing targeted traffic. The business listing has a logo of an eye and a red circle. A Google image search using the icon returns some results with the same image. All the results were under the domain apparat.com. Apparat is an Iranian video sharing site that was founded in 2011. The image matched was used as a profile picture for a user on the site. The profile page provided a link to a Twitter account, continues the report. Well, this is digging deep. This is how you find somebody. The analysis of the files that either dropped on the or downloaded the YT Stealer samples revealed that most of them don't just drop the YT Stealer. The droppers are also loaded with other stealers, including Redline and Vitter stealers. A lot of the droppers are disguised as installers for legitimate video editing software such as Adobe Premiere Pro, Filmora, and HitFilm Express, audio tools like Ableton Live 11 and FL Studio, game mods for Counter-Strike, Global Offensive, and Call of Duty, and cracked versions of security products. Someone always has a way of monetizing data. When it comes to stolen YouTube authentication data, we haven't analyzed how it's being monetized in the next step of the chain. One potential option could be to defraud the subscribers of channels. When it comes to how this malware is infecting the victims, we can see a trend. Most of the fake installers used were for cracked versions of legitimate software. We also saw fake installers for mods and cheats for games, concludes the report. When it comes to how to protect yourself, the classic security practice should be applied. Only use software from trusted sources. Recently, threat actors have stolen $100 million in cryptocurrency from the blockchain company Harmony. We saw this story like 20 minutes ago. The company reported the incident to the authorities. The FBI is investigating the cyber heist with the help of several cybersecurity firms. Yes, Harmony's Horizon Bridge allows users to transfer their cryptocurrencies from one blockchain to another. The company immediately halted the bridge to prevent further transactions and notify the exchanges. The company also offered a $1 million bounty to give the money back. Blockchain security firm Certic published a detailed analysis of the incident and confirmed that the threat actors were able to access the owners of Horizon's multi-sig wallets. On June 23, 2022, the bridge between Harmony Chain and Ethereum experienced multiple exploits. Our expert analysis identified 12 attack transactions and 3 attack addresses, reads the analysis published by Certic. So this is where it starts to get interesting. Across these transactions, the attacker netted various tokens on the bridge, including Ethereum, USDC, WTC, USDT, DAI, BUSD, AAG, FXS, Sushi, AVE, WTH, and FRX. The transactions vary in value, but range from $49,179 up to $41,200,000. The attacker accomplished this by somehow controlling the owner of the multi-sig wallet to call the confirmed transaction directly to transfer large amounts of tokens from the bridge on Harmony, which led to a total loss of $97 million worth of assets on the Harmony chain, which the attacker has consolidated into one main address. On June 27th, the threat actors behind the cyber heist culprit have begun transferring funds, roughly $39 million, through the Tornado Cash Mixer service to launder illicit profits. Good news is that the blockchain security firm Elliptic was able to analyze the transactions even after the use of the Mixer service. According to Elliptic, the North Korea-linked Lazarus APT was behind the attack. There are strong indications that North Korea's Lazarus group may be responsible for this theft. Based on the nature of the hack and the subsequent laundering of the stolen funds, Lazarus is behind was believed to have stolen over $2 billion in crypto assets from exchanges and DeFi services, reads the report published by Elliptic. The theft was perpetrated by compromising the cryptographic keys of a multi-signature wallet, likely through a social engineering attack on Harmony team members. Such techniques have frequently been used by Lazarus groups. According to the firm, the threat actors compromised the cryptographic keys of a multi-signature wallet, likely through a social engineering attack aimed at Harmony team members. Elliptic researchers pointed out that the relatively short periods during which the stolen funds stopped being moved out of Tornado Cash are consistent with nighttime hours in Asia-Pacific zone. Good news for the victims of the Hive ransomware. The South Korean cybersecurity agency KISA has released a free decryptor for versions from version 1 till version 4. The Korea Internet and Security Agency, or KISA, is distributing the Hive Ransomware Integrated Recovery Tool. This recovery tool can recover Hive ransomware versions 1 to version 4, reads the announcement published by the KISA agency. The agency released an executable along with a user manual that provides step-by-step instructions to recover encrypted data for free. The Hive ransomware operation has been active since June 2021. It provides ransomware as a service and adopts a double extortion model threatening to publish data stolen from the victims on their leak site, which is Hive Leaks. In April 2021, the Federal Bureau of Investigation has released a flash alert on the Hive ransomware attacks that includes technical details and indicators of compromise associated with the operations of the gang. According to a report published by blockchain analytics company Chain Analysis, the Hive ransomware is one of the top 10 ransomware strains by revenue of 2021. The group used a variety of attack methods, including mall spam campaigns, vulnerable RDP servers, and compromised VPN credentials. In February, a team of researchers from Kook-Min University discovered a flaw in the encryption algorithm used by Hive ransomware that allowed them to decrypt data without knowing the private key used by the gang to encrypt files. The agency released an executable along with a user manual that provides step-by-step instructions to recover encrypted data for free. Hive ransomware uses a hybrid encryption scheme, but uses its own symmetric cipher to encrypt files. We were able to recover the master key for generating the file encryption key without the attacker's private key by using a cryptographic vulnerability identified through analysis. As a result of our experiments, encrypted files were successfully decrypted using the recovery master key based on our mechanism, reads the paper published by the researchers from Kook-Min University of South Korea. To the best of our knowledge, this is the first successful attempt at decrypting Hive ransomware. We experimentally demonstrated that more than 95% of the keys used for encryption could be recovered using the method we suggested. The technique devised by the team of academics was able to recover more than, again, 95% of the keys used for the encryption process. Norway's National Security Authority confirmed that some of the country's most important websites and online services were taken down by a massive DDoS attack conducted by a pro-Russian group. Again, we're now talking about countries. NSM did not explicitly attribute the attacks to a threat actor, but the pro-Russian Legion Cyber Spetsnaz group published on its Telegram channel a list of Norwegian organizations to target. Similar attacks recently targeted the Lithuanian government, Italian organizations and government websites, and Romania for providing support to the Ukraine. Now, Norwegian authorities confirm the attacks have hit large companies that offer essential services to the population. The attacks are aimed at a number of large Norwegian companies that offer important services to the population, explained NSM Director Sophie Nystrom. In light of the ongoing security policy situation, NSM went out in May and asked Norwegian companies to make sure that they were able to handle denial of service attacks. We have seen similar attacks in other countries recently, but none of these have reported lasting consequences. The attacks will still be able to create uncertainty in the population and give the impression that we are a piece in the current political situation in Europe. Norway's National Security Authority also issued instructions to local organizations for the mitigation of DDoS attacks. Starting May 24th, the group calling themselves Cyber Spetsnaz announced the launch of a new campaign, Panopticon, which aimed to recruit 3,000 volunteer cyber offensive specialists willing to participate in attacks against the European Union and the Ukrainian government institutions, including Ukrainian companies. Around April, Cyber Spetsnaz built one of its first divisions called Zarya. They looked for experienced penetration testers, OSINT specialists, and hackers. Around this time, the group performed one of their first coordinated attacks against NATO. Prior to that, Cyber Spetsnaz members had been distributing domains associated to the NATO infrastructure. By doing so, they could plan an effective attack. The actors shared a list of NATO resources and a comprehensive Excel file. On June 2nd, the group created a new division called Sparta. The responsibility of the new division includes cyber sabotage, disruption of internet resources, data theft, and financial intelligence focused on NATO, their members, and allies. Notably, Sparta outlines this activity as a key priority today and confirms the newly created division is an official part of KillNet Collective Group. Based on the description, the actors call themselves hacktivists. However, it's not not yet clear if the group has any connection to state actors. Sources interviewed by Security Affairs interpreted this activity with high levels of confidence to be state-supported. Interestingly, the name Sparta in context of the current Ukrainian war, is related to the name of a unit from the Donetsk People's Republic. Besides proprietary tools, they're leveraging MHD-DOS, Blood, Karma.DDoS, Hasaki, DDoS Ripper, and GoldenEye scripts to generate malicious traffic on Layer 7, which may impact the availability of web resources. The group performed cyber attacks against 5 logistic terminals in Italy: SEC, Trieste, TDT, Yieldport, VTP, and several major financial institutions too. Phoenix coordinated its activities with another division called RAID, who previously attacked government resources in Poland, including the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Senate, Border Control and Police. Other divisions involved in DDoS attacks including Vera, Fazaning Gung, Mirai, Jackie DDoS Gung, and Sekemari Jima, who previously attacked multiple web resources in Germany. According to security firms, such hacktivist campaigns typically have the goal to orchestrate certain information operations rather than a real cyber attack that disrupts networks or the availability of critical resources. Cybersecurity specialists should be especially careful with attribution, as in some cases, such activity leads to provocations and purposely generated operations. Microsoft security intelligence experts are warning of a long-running campaign conducted by a cloud threat actor group tracked as 8220 that is now targeting Linux servers to install crypto miners. We observed notable updates on the to the long-running malware campaign targeting Linux systems by a group known as 8220 Gang, reads one of the tweets published by Microsoft Security Intelligence. The updates include the deployment of new versions of a crypto miner and an IRC bot, as well as the use of an exploit for a recent disclosed vulnerability. The 8220 group has been active since at least 2017. It focuses on crypto mining campaigns. Threat actors are Chinese-speaking. The names of the group come from the port number 8220 used by the miner to communicate with the command and control servers. According to Microsoft researchers, the group has actively updated its techniques and payloads over the last year. In a recent campaign, the group targeted i686 and x86-64 Linux systems and uses RC exploits for CVE 2022-26134 Atlassian Compliments and CVE 2019-2725 WebLogic for initial access. Once access is gained to a target system, an evasive loader is downloaded from jira.letmaker.top. The loader eludes detection by clearing log files and disabling cloud monitoring and security tools. The loader is used to download the Pawn Rig crypto miner and an IRC bot that runs commands from a command and control server or it maintains persistence by creating either a cron job or a script that runs every 60 seconds as NoHop. Microsoft urges organizations to secure systems and servers, apply updates, and use good credential hygiene to protect their networks. Microsoft Defender for Endpoint on Linux detects malicious behaviors and payloads related to this campaign. The IT giant also shared indicators of compromise for this campaign. Researchers from Kaspersky Lab have discovered a new SessionManager Backdoor that was employed in attacks targeting Microsoft IIS servers since March 2021. In early 2022, we investigated one of such IIS backdoors, SessionManager. In late April 2022, most of the samples we identified were still not flagged as malicious in a popular online file scanning service, and SessionManager was still deployed in over 20 organizations, reads the analysis published by Kaspersky. Dropping an IIS module as a backdoor enables threat actors to maintain persistence, update resistant and relatively stealthy access to the IT infrastructure of a targeted organization, be it to collect emails, update further malicious access, or clandestinely manage compromised servers that can be leveraged as malicious infrastructure. The SessionManager Backdoor was employed in attacks against NGOs, government, military, and industrial organizations in Africa, South America, Asia, Europe, Russia, and the Middle East. The researchers attribute the attack to the Gelsemium threat actor due to the similar victims and use of a common OWL proxy variant. SessionManager is written in C++. It is a malicious native code IIS module that is loaded by some IIS applications to process legitimate HTTP requests that are continuously sent to the server. Does anybody still use IIS, really? Once received specifically crafted HTTP requests from the threat actors, the malicious code executes instructions hidden in the request and then passes the request to the server for its processing like any other request. Experts pointed out that this kind of malicious module is very difficult to detect with common monitoring activities. SessionManager supports the following capabilities: reading, writing to, and deleting arbitrary files on the compromised server, executing arbitrary binaries from the compromised server, also known as remote command execution, establishing connections to arbitrary network endpoints that can be reached by the compromised server, as well as reading and writing in such connections. The publishing giant Macmillan has been hit by a cyber attack that forced the company to shut down its IT infrastructure to prevent the threat from spreading within its network. The company spokesman Aaron Coffey told different media outlets that attackers have encrypted certain files on the Macmillan network. This info leads the experts into believing that the company was the victim of a ransomware attack, but at the time of the writing, it's not been claimed by any ransomware gangs. The attack took place on June 25th. The security breach also impacted the UK branch Pan Macmillan. It is still unclear if the company was also the victim of a data breach. As a precautionary measure, we immediately took systems offline to prevent further impact to our network, Kofi said. We are working diligently with specialists to investigate the source of this issue, understand its impact on our systems, and to restore full functionality of our networks as soon as possible. Macmillan, of course, is investigating the incident. The company also closed its virtual and physical offices in New York. Security researchers from Horizon3.ai have published technical details and proof-of-concept exploit code for a critical vulnerability tracked to CVE 2022-28219 with a CVSS score of 9.8 out of 10 in the Zoho ManageEngine ADAudit Plus tool. The tool allows monitoring activities of Active Directory and produces alerts and reporting for one or more desired Active Directory change events. The tool is very attractive to threat actors because of the privileged access they have to Active Directory. The unauthenticated remote code execution vulnerability was discovered by security researcher Naveen Sunkavalli at Horizon3.ai and addressed by the vendor in March. The issue was discovered while investigating an endpoint managed by the Seawolf renderer servlet in the third-party Seawolf charting library. The vulnerability includes 3 issues: untrusted Java deserialization, path traversal, and a blind XML external entities injection. One of the first things that stood out, and we were surprised to see, was the presence of a Seawolf endpoint handled by the Seawolf renderer servlet in the third-party Seawolf charting library. This is the same vulnerable endpoint from CVE 2020-10189 reported by @Steven Seeley against ManageEngine Desktop Central, reads the post published by the experts. The file storage class's library was abused for remote code execution via untrusted Java deserialization. The analysis of the library code revealed that the software deserializes untrusted code and doesn't sanitize input file paths. The experts were able to use the image parameter to deserialize a Java payload anywhere on the disk. Once remote code execution capability is achieved, the experts focus on discovering a way to upload a Java payload anywhere on disk. The experts noticed a feature in the ADAudit Plus, which collects security events from agents running on other machines in the domain. The experts discovered that some of the endpoints that agents used to upload events to ADAudit Plus were unauthenticated. One of the features of ADAudit Plus is the ability to collect security events from agents running on other machines in the domain. To our surprise, we found that a few of the endpoints that agents used to upload events to ADAudit Plus were unauthenticated. This gave us a large attack surface to work with because there's a lot of business logic that was written to process these events. While looking for a file upload vector, we found a path to trigger a blind XXE vulnerability in the process tracking listener class, which handles events containing Windows scheduled task XML content. Continues analysis. The class was using the dangerous default versions of Java's document build factory class, which permits external entity resolution and is vulnerable to XXE injection. The experts discovered a blind XXE vulnerability in that process tracking listener class. They noticed that the blind XXE vulnerabilities in the Java are usually hard to exploit, but in this case, they were aided by the old Java runtime bundled in ADAudit Plus. By default, ADAudit Plus ships with Java 8.U051. The old Java runtime allowed the researchers to exploit the blind XXE to exfiltrate files over FTP, getting directory listings over FTP and upload files. The experts demonstrated how to exploit CVE 2022-28219 in ManageEngine ADAudit Plus to execute the calculator app. The experts discovered XXE vulnerabilities in Java and in Windows that can be exploited to capture and relay NTLM hashes of the user account under which the application is running. The root cause is that the Java HTTP client will attempt to authenticate over NTLM if it connects to a server requiring NTLM to authenticate. This is especially useful for an attacker if the ADAudit Plus application is running under a privileged account, concludes the report. We now move on to other security news. The MITRE shared the list of the 2022 top 25 most common and dangerous weaknesses. It could help organizations to assess internal infrastructure and determine the surface of attack. The presence of these vulnerabilities within the infrastructure of an organization could potentially expose it to a broad range of attacks. Welcome to the 2022 Common Weaknesses Enumeration, Top 25 Most Dangerous Software Weaknesses List. The list demonstrates the currently most common and impactful software weaknesses, often easy to find and exploit. These can lead to exploitable vulnerabilities that allow adversaries to completely take over a system, steal data, or prevent applications from working, reads the announcement published by MITRE. Many professionals who deal with software will find the CWE Top 25 a critical and convenient resource to help mitigate risk. This may include software architects, designers, developers, testers, users, project managers, security researchers, educators, and contributors to standards development organizations. MITRE created the 2022 CVE Top 25 list leveraging common vulnerabilities and exposure data found within the National Institute of Standards and Technology, National Vulnerability Database, and a common vulnerability scoring system. Scores associated with each vulnerability. The organization also used CVE records from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency Known Exploited Vulnerabilities Catalog and applied a formula to score each weakness based on prevalence and severity. The data set analyzed by MITRE researchers to calculate the 2022 top 25 contained a total of 37,899 CVE records from the previous 2 calendar years. MITRE also shared trends year over year, 2019 to 2020 lists. The first trend is a significant change from the 2019 top 25 to the 2022 top 25. Drops in high-level classes such as CWE 119 and CWE 200 are steep, while the shift and increase to base-level weaknesses is most apparent for weaknesses such as CWE 787 and CWE 502. If you don't know what any of these are, I highly suggest you go check out that list. It is extremely important. A former Canadian government employee, Sebastian Vachanov Deschardins, pleaded guilty in the United States to charges related to his involvement in the Russian cybercrime group NetWalker. In March, the man was extradited to the United States to face charges for dozens of ransomware attacks resulting in the payment of tens of millions of dollars in ransom. According to DOJ, U.S. authorities charged him with conspiracy to commit computer fraud and wire fraud, intentional damage to protected computers, and transmitting a demand in relation to damaging a protected computer rising from his alleged participation in the NetWalker gang. In January, a joint operation of U.S. and EU law enforcement authorities allowed the seizure of the leak sites used by NetWalker ransomware operators. Law enforcement authorities also charged the Canadian national for its role in the NetWalker ransomware operations. The group has been active since 2019. The NetWalker ransomware has been offered with the ransomware as a service model. The list of victims of the group is long and includes Pakistan's largest private power company, K Electric, Argentina's official integration agency, Dirección Nacional de Migraciones, and the University of California, San Francisco. The latter paid $1.14 million ransomware to recover its files. In August 2020, the FBI has issued a security alert about NetWalker ransomware attacks targeting U.S. and foreign government organizations. NetWalker is also believed to have been responsible for compromising the network of the University of California, San Francisco, which paid, again, the $1 million to recover from the incident in July. The FBI warned of network attacks targeting government organizations. The Department of Justice also charged against the Canadian national Sebastian Vachon Desjardins. In relation to NetWalker ransomware attacks, he's alleged to have obtained at least $27.6 million as a result of the offenses charged in the indictment. The law enforcement also seized $454,530 in cryptocurrency obtained from ransomware payment or from ransom payments. In February 2022, the Ontario Court of Justice sentenced the man to 6 years and 8 months in prison prior to his extradition. Between May 2020 and January 2021, the defendant victimized 17 Canadian entities and others throughout the world by breaching private computer networks and systems, hijacking their data, holding the stolen data for ransom, and distributing stolen data when ransom were not paid. The defendant excelled at what he did. Between 10 and 15 unknown individuals hired the defendant to teach them his methods. Read the reasons for the sentence. Some of these activities benefited those interested in securing computer networks from these types of attacks. Some of the defendant's students were likely other cyber threat actors. The man could face 10 years in prison in the United States. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe if you haven't already, and smash the bell if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next episode. Hopefully, less COVID, less coughing, and more entertainment. See you then. Take care.